Okay, I hope that everyone can hear me. I have to be very careful not to touch that because it turns it off like yesterday. Sorry. This is day 1569. And it is that many days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. It's an internal code red, and it is a rogue criminal group, yet it's internal on Fort Bliss, compromised military leadership that is part of this rogue criminal group. And when I'm talking about the military leadership, evidence shows, this is not us, just speculating. Evidence shows that it is Major General Clem Coward, that it is General Garrett, Michael Garrett. So those are the major players in this. But of course, Richard's platoon leader, Dallas Hart, and his mother, Leilani Hart, and CID agent Tavita Nusa, a family member of the Harts, and more than that, because Leilani Hart was giving him sexual favors. You know, all of that was ongoing, a long history of incest, a long history of child porn, a long history of child abuse in the worst kinds of ways. And, it just goes on and on. So that's part of it. And, another thing that needs to be stressed is that Fort Bliss is the home of, and I'm making sure I'm on. So, yes, everything's good. I can see comments. Is the home of the emergency intake center, and evidence shows that director of emergency services, who had a very close relationship with Leilani Hart, Thomas Kane, also a close relationship with the CYS, the Child Youth Services, and Ogle. And they are absolutely I absolutely believe and know, because evidence is there. They have an obligation to all these children on Fort Bliss, right? To their security, to keep the military installation secure. And they didn't, and they failed. And Richard reported to Child Protective Services. And so, which would go to and Ogle, the Child Youth Services. She would know all of that. And, spending my life very connected to the military, going to Dodd schools when I was a child, knowing lots of Dodd's school teachers, absolutely, I understand what's going on with Child Youth Services, lots of history there. And, so she would absolutely know, and she is absolutely responsible for these 325 to 500,000 missing and mostly dead children. And, it's really bad, because the things that we're hearing, why they're mostly dead, it's trafficking, and it's, child trafficking at the worst, and also organ trafficking at the worst, because many of these minors, were up to 17 years old. And so it's a very, very terrible thing, what is going on in our world. And I'm very grateful that we have a change of administration, that we have. I think that the mandate um, about this election, for this election, was about accountability. I think that the American people, I think that the world, because I heard from around the world when President Trump won this election, but I think that the really big issue was accountability. How could they do what they did in 2020 and get away with it? How can they just steal the money the way they are and get away with it? How could the banks from, 2008, I lived in Ireland at the time. We lived in Ireland. Ireland was one of the pigs, right? You had Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain. Um, the banks got bailed out, the people didn't. Uh, the accountability was the first thing that they complained about. And I'm hearing that from everyone now. Everyone wants accountability. And I hope that Trump doesn't let us down on that. I hope he doesn't go soft on these absolute criminals. What they've done and what they've done to our family, what they did to Richard, um, targeting him, making his life absolutely miserable for being a distinguished honor graduate and whistleblower, right? Whistleblower, and murdering him, forcibly removing him from the barracks. I haven't said that enough lately. Forcibly removing him from the barracks and murdering him, and then treating his body very, very badly, dismembering him, dishonoring his body, um, and we have information, evidence. We have evidence that confirms that they have Richard's remains, partial remains, and they're not giving it to us. And they lie to us, and so we want accountability. We want our son's remains, and we want them to be held accountable for this kind of cover up, for withholding the massive crime committed against a whistleblower soldier, our son, and the crimes done to him physically, also mentally, what they did to him. He held very, very strong through it all. I just can't even imagine. When I look at Glennon Oakley Jr.'s videos, um, this was a standard operating procedure to whistleblowers in the Fort Bliss, El Paso area because they were compromised with the cartel. We have evidence that they are compromised with the cartel. And people would tell me, oh, the cartel's not involved. Absolutely, the cartel is involved in this because it has to do with the trafficking, the criminal trafficking. And, it is a rogue criminal group. It's not as big as you think it is. It's not small, but it's not as big as you think it is. Because look, they had to use Leilani Hart, the prime suspect in the murder case of our son, right? The prime suspect, um, as a false source, as an unreliable source, to target the whistleblower in our son's case that reported her as the prime suspect in the case for tampering, getting this access through CID agent Tavita Nusa and tampering with Richard's files. Absolutely, you know, that's a small group, right? And her connection with Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia of 3905 Bliss Avenue, of course, in the same household as Danae Katzen. Danae Katzen, who targeted us just I would say, yeah, 2 days after we arrived in 2020. And then again, that same family targets our whistleblower, um, and is involved in the Walmart mass shooting case. You see, the Walmart mass shooting case and Richard's case are one case. And I've been saying that for a long time because it's the same people. And this audio drop today, um, we have all of this audio that we're going through. And I thought this was pretty compelling, where he's saying to this day, Patrick Crucius is saying, maybe one or two people, but he can't even fathom what was done. Um, and this is out of a liar's mouth, right? So, number one, Patrick Crucius seems to be very nonverbal. Um, I would like to hear his side of the story. I'd like to hear him, um, the prosecuting side, to ask him some questions right on the stand. When, where, why, how, what? And because when he was questioned by a victim, asking him, "Are you sorry?" Yes. And he didn't even say yes. He just nodded. He didn't even talk. He just nodded yes, right? And are you a white supremacist? No. You know, just nodded no. Um, I really believe that we have a, a good reason to suspect that he's nonverbal. And of course, we know he's autistic. We know he's severe. Um, and we know that with that kind of disability, he could absolutely not, no way could have pulled this off as a lone shooter. Um, with the kind of ammunition, the brown tip bullets, the green tip bullets, um, changing out, uh, you know, the magazine from the rifle. No, being in the car just in minutes, getting internet access, loading up from your laptop a manifesto, creating a manifesto, um, and then surrender yourself after you've like been in rage. You're in rage, and he has shown no indication at all of any kind of rage, and he hasn't been surrounded by any kind of medical professionals. He should absolutely be surrounded by medical professionals, and we should hear their testimony, right? But that's not the case here. It's just cover up, cover up, cover up. And with Joe Spencer's audio recordings, and this one today, the To This Day recording, he absolutely proves himself as a criminal, because he lied to the federal court. He absolutely lied and swore that Patrick Crucius could understand the allegations against him, that he took full responsibility for the 23 deaths and for the hate crime. And yet Patrick Crucius is denying it, denying it. And even Joe Spencer, in his own words in these recordings, is denying it. And, so he has committed a fraud against the federal court and a fraud against the community, the fraud against the people, and he needs to be held accountable. He absolutely cannot be on this case. He's absolutely a detriment to justice. I think he should lose his law license for what has happened here. So, um, there we know through corroborating these audios that were very graciously sent to us, and we're very, very grateful for that. Grateful for those putting trust in us. Um, but those audios have been out there because it was in El Paso Times. And that means that the DA had them. That means that the law enforcement has them. They have them. The DA and the law enforcement has them. If they're in El Paso Times, they're in the law enforcement hands and they're in the district attorney's hands. Okay? That's what that means. And yet they have continued to let this fraud go and continue. And that's par, isn't it? Because we have a fraudulent district attorney. He's a usurper. He did not sign the anti-bribe line before he took the oath of office, which is a big deal because, um, and there's others that do this too. It is required by the Texas Constitution that you must sign the anti-bribe line before you take your oath of office so that you are swearing that you have not taken a bribe and that you're going to be held accountable if you do. And so it's a very important step in all of this. It's not something to shoo away or who cares or whatever. It's a very, very important step. And we can't have leaders taking oath of office, especially a district attorney, that is susceptible to bribes, right? So, you can't just sign it afterwards or whatever at a later time. You have to sign it before the oath of office because, according to the law, according to the Texas Constitution, it must be done before. If it's afterwards, then it's void. And I think that's a clever little trick that they try to play. So he is not installed properly. He is not a legitimate DA. And then we have the fake medical examiner, the fake individuals that are impersonating judges on the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. We have the fake chief of police for the El Paso Independent School District. We, there's so much the fake. Uh, yeah, I was reminded, thank you so much, Team Find Richard Halliday, of this today. The fake Task Force Find Richard Halliday. That was fake because it had no op board. So there is a lot of using taxpayers' money to create a facade, and yet uh, they're undergoing and engaging in criminal activities behind the scenes, and they only use their position. They weaponize their position, manipulate their position to cover up their criminal crime network. So that is really, really important. Um, and it is important to know that everything that happens in the Walmart mass shooting case is absolutely um, together with Richard's case and, the DA's case. Why is the DA a usurper? Why is the magistrate court fake? It all fits together, and it's one big story. It's one big story. It's very important for everyone to understand that. So I hope you enjoy the little sound. Well, the little sound drop. There's so much, and we're going through it, And, some of it is pretty, uh, you know, it's not all the best quality. So we're doing the transcripts for everyone, um, and so this is really really important because Joe Spencer is part of this criminal group. He absolutely committed fraud against the court. Absolutely knew that Patrick Crucius was not a white supremacist, and whatever you want to believe about him, the truth is that there's evidence that he's not a white supremacist, that he's not racist, and that they were perpetrating a psyop on the community, um, lies and lies to pin it on him, so that the real shooters could roam free, right? And that you can put it as many meetings as you want, but he doesn't think it's funny. I don't think he even knows. I don't even think he knows because, he is looking very different from the beginning. He's looking very betrayed and abused. He's looking very abused from the beginning. He's looking malnourished from the beginning. He's unkept. He's put in chains. Um, they are absolutely abusing him. You cannot parade your client around in chains and um, uh, jail clothes when we have a presumption of innocence. And you cannot say, oh, well, he's already guilty in the federal court, so that way he can be. No, no, no. These are two different jurisdictions. They had him in a suit for the federal court. And for the state case, they need to have him in a suit also, trimmed and cut and looking good. Otherwise, you are absolutely, um, for millions and millions of dollars, he should have a good defense. Um, and we need to get to the truth. Just because of our fear, just because of our tears and our pain, um, we don't want to send the wrong person to death row, even though I don't think they want him to be on death row because that would mean an automatic appeal and going through his case with a fine tooth comb. I don't think they want that. I think they always intended to plead him out. They never intended to do a trial because a trial is too revealing. And maybe we would hear him speak. And why is this important? Because Richard's truth is buried under the Walmart case. Richard was reporting on the criminal trafficking, reporting to multiple um, agencies, institutions about what was happening. And he told us it was very, very bad. It was very, very bad. And Child Protective Services in Washington, D.C., and FBI Houston, and IG, and CID, and 911. It was very, very bad. And there were audits. So his whistleblowing reports got traction, and they were actually auditing, and Fort Bliss was under investigation. And because of that, um, they decided that they were going to continuously and severely retaliate against Richard, and then murder him, and then cover it up. And the same people, the Rosa Maria Valdez Garcias, who's both cases, Danae Katzen, who's a family member, same household, um, and Leilani Hart, and Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader, and James Hart, and I can go on of this rogue criminal group. They are connected to both cases. And, what are the chances of that, right? In the city of El Paso? Zero. Zero. And you have Angela Kachurga's husband confirming that with Texas Heart. You have hard evidence that puts everything together. The timeline, uh, the retaliation, how they retaliated, when they retaliated. It all fits together, snug as a bug in a rug. Um, just this absolute puzzle pieces fitting together. And the Walmart case is Richard's case. It was a diversion. They put it together to divert from the audits, from the investigations. Um, of course, um, it was, let's make some money off of it, let's whatever. And then you see with Joe Spencer in this audio, um, saying, I don't want nickels and dimes. I want I want an open wallet, right? I want an open checkbook. Um, and then going and meeting him, you know, um, and saying what he does on to this day, and that was in 2022. We know the exact date. It was at a hotel, um, 2022, and you know, and he's pleading. The sentencing was in 2023, the federal sentencing. And he is letting his client, knowing what he knows about the unsure mental capacity, and not unsure meaning uh, they're unsure about that he has a mental problem. They absolutely know that Patrick Crucius is autistic with a severe mental health condition. They were talking about it. They know it, that he does not understand, that he is banging his head on the concrete since he was 3 years old. He does not have the understanding, and also that he denies being a hater. And so I think he needed a fair trial, not a plea deal. See, the plea deal, you have to agree to those things, right? You're making a deal. Okay, I'll say I'm a hater. Okay, I'll say, I take responsibility. But if you're not in the right mind to do that, then the deal is off and there needs to be a federal trial. So with these recordings, it's going to be interesting what the federal court does. Okay. Um, they have to react somehow to this because the case has been interfered with. Absolutely. So I just appreciate everyone, and please share this. And I think that if you share the audio and share what's going on, we will get accountability. And with this new administration, um, the doors are opening up, and I'm really um, I'm cautious because of everything we've been through, but I am really happy that we have this new administration. It's really changing things already, just in what, 3 days. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing.